Hello. Hi, my name is Matthew Lee. 我的中文名字是李彦胜。I was born in Taiwan, but I actually grew up in Australia, so 中文讲不太好。抱歉。I run a fund called Progression here in the Bay Area, investing in consumer tech. My previous fund was First Check, a company called Musical.ly, which everyone knows became TikTok. So I launched Progression 5 years ago with some of the alumni from Musical.ly and TikTok. Pre-seed seed stage, check sizes 500K to $1 million. It's really great to see a lot of innovation coming from Taiwan. I was back in Taiwan for the first time in 15 years last year, and really excited to see that there's more and more companies coming out of Taiwan.
Norman?
Hi everybody, I'm Norman Liang, Liang Shang. I am a early stage investor with Upshot. Upshot is a platform that helps institutions access unicorn founders. To date, we've invested in 34 unicorns, and this journey with Taiwan is a continuation of my previous work, having launched the Alibaba Entrepreneurs Fund, running the investment team for W.I. Harper here, as well as building out our entire seed portfolio. For those that don't know, W.I. Harper is a cross-border Greater China early stage venture fund started by Peter Liu. It's been in Taiwan for the last almost 25 years now, and I'm fortunate to have been one of the many alumni that continues to support the ecosystem in Taiwan. With Upshot, our mission has been partnering actually with the government to identify Series A and Series B startups, helping Taiwanese founders expand their global teams, expand their go-to-market, and build teams and channel partnerships here in Silicon Valley with the goal of helping more Taiwanese entrepreneurs become venture-backed in the US. Throughout our careers, my partner and I have helped countless numbers of founders internationally. We still believe that Silicon Valley continues to be a place where global entrepreneurs, it continues to be the headquarters for global entrepreneurship. And so we've seen that entrepreneurs coming from all around the world asking the same question: how do I access the capital? And how do I build my business? And how do I stand out from the crowd in Silicon Valley? In Upshot, we do that with multiple vehicles, including partnering with serial entrepreneurs, working with our platform infrastructure in partnership with AngelList, which if you guys don't know what AngelList, take a look at angel.co. And also working with the portfolio entrepreneurs that we've worked with throughout our careers, having built many venture-backed companies from ideas all the way into global enterprises. So looking forward to share more thoughts, perspectives, and answer any questions.
So me, I'm Anya, founder and CEO of Taylor AI. We use AI to pick clothes for men, but we send them real clothes for them to wear for a couple of weeks. Once they are done, they can buy the clothes or return the dirty clothes, get new ones. No more shopping or laundry. And we solve the problem that 30% of clothes go directly from factory to landfill. You create 10% of carbon emission and 20% of polluting water. So maybe we'll start with the previous few questions. I think I sounded mostly, number one is money, number two is trust, and then number three is some other strategic resources. So maybe we start with the money question. Like, Nora, what's your take on what's going on with the capital market nowadays? And last year, people say, oh, it's all about C and pre-C because no one wants to invest in IPO, the price is too bad. This year, I heard VC say, oh, now the money, the pendulum has swing back. Now it's more of the IPO. People are ready to go to late stage to get cash out because most of the fund already wastes 2 years in waiting, and for 5-7 years fund, they are looking for exit before the fund, the period end. So what's going on?
I think there's a couple things that are sort of headwinds for you as entrepreneurs right now. I think the first thing that's a headwind is, of course, where global capital sits today and how it's allocated. The amount of risk tolerance and the competitiveness of venture capital from an absolute returns perspective to other things you can invest in, private equity, even real estate, are starting to outperform, venture as it sits in the more recent years. I think the second thing is allocation of capital. The amount of allocated capital and venture capital is down for the third year in a row. And the last piece is just right now, entrepreneurs are not in the same type of environment we were in during the dot-com era, and as new markets were being created by rapid technology adoption around the world, ideas were enough. Ideas were enough to stand out, but now execution is really key. And so for early stage entrepreneurs, the focus on the business model, the understanding of the business model, and the understanding of the questions you have about the business you're building, at the end of the day, it's such a competitive market. Really, what stands out is execution, but what does that really mean? I mean, fundamentally, you as the entrepreneurs have to think about the business model, think about your go-to-market, think about your channels. And the companies that are getting funding right now, we are seeing revenue become a much more critical focus point, is even for early stage investors who are looking at the idea saying, at the end of the day, how much risk am I going to take to partner with you? How much time am I going to take to partner with you? And part of it is our own allocation of time. Like a VC's allocation of time, sometimes I probably don't see my family as much as I should, but that's because we're so passionate, and those of us who've been operators who spend so much time with uni entrepreneurs, you know, that's enough to continue to fuel us, to help you continue to find ways to take your idea into reality, form that team, and actually ultimately build a business as you continue to raise capital and as you continue to grow from stage to stage to stage, from just an idea into an actual, you know, multi-billion-dollar business, hopefully.
And what's your take? Specifically, I think people are looking for the difference between this year to last year.
I guess like in the last few years, I think from a founder's perspective and even from an investing perspective, we've actually slowed down investing in 2022, 2023 because you know, there's a lot of volatility in the in terms of valuations, and what we've seen is that it's come down a fair bit, especially at pre-seed seed. It took a while to come down. Founders' expectations have changed over this time as well. And we've seen activity pick up in 2024 and 2020, this year as well, 2025. I think from a more optimistic point of view, because I think I have to be optimistic, I invest you know, usually when there's pre-product in just teams, is that there are some tailwinds as well, you know, combating these headwinds. You know, AI is obviously a big. We think it's going to be the next big wave, similar to the internet and mobile, and maybe even bigger. And we're also seeing that, I guess, like in a high interest rate environment, private equity potentially is getting a little bit more scrutinized now because the cost of debt is more expensive. And so allocators may potentially be looking towards alternative assets, potentially with venture capital. So I think there are a few things that, and also the final thing I think is stable economic and public policy. You know, currently there's a lot of volatility this year. We were hoping that Q1 would be a big window of IPO opportunities, but that's kind of like paused for now. But I believe that you know, world leaders have you know, I think it'll come sooner than later. The stable economic and public policy, and I hope to see Q3 and Q4 to be a very positive for early stage venture capital.
How about for alternate resources? Like I think last 2 years with VC, we're not investing a lot, so we started going to people looking for funding from like family office, angel clubs, syndicates, or even venture debts. And so, like, what's you guys take on when they are talking to these type of investors? What's the difference between them versus what VC thinking? We all know VC thinking about invest the unicorn, go big or go home. How does the others difference?
I mean, I think first off, I think as I've seen with venture debt, the business model is actually critical. You have to be able to show them, right? At the end of the day, this is debt, right? This is a loan. So it's about credit worthiness, and you don't have data. So you have to be able to prove to them what credit worthiness means. And so a lot of focus on your business model is more of a critical element for alternative debt if you choose to go down that path. Because ultimately, what they're looking for is some type of repayment of schedule on that capital over some window of time. And that's the first thing. Family offices are great, but family offices are also very, very distracting. Mostly, family offices have a lot of alternatives and a lot of places and a lot of interests that are very diverse that don't just relate to startups. And so, in a lot of cases, family offices will take a long time for you to get to know but they'll make decisions quickly. Oftentimes, though, they are typically not looking to participate or drive around. They're looking for an experienced investor to really sort of drive or set the terms, if you will. And I think when you look at family members, at the end of the day, your family members trust you, whether you make money or not. It's really more of a function of whether or not they have money to invest. Just like working with serial entrepreneurs and with other experienced technology executives, I think just liquidity is a huge factor for any investor. And if an investor is illiquid, it makes it difficult for them to execute on these commitments, whether it's at some minimum size as small as a few $1,000s to some larger check size of $1 to $2 million or more. And so it's also part of it is for you as a founder, it's really about how much time you want to spend managing the relationship with the investor. Because ultimately, managing that relationship with the investor, you sometimes will talk to them more than your team, and sometimes you'll talk to them more than your family. So oftentimes you really have to figure out, from your perspective, what's worth it. Is it really worth it, or is it more worth it? Your time to go out, talk to customers, try to sell a product, try to validate the idea, and continue to grow the business and bootstrap it, and find ways to get revenue in the door creatively, from customers who are actually willing to pay you out of their budgets.
Maybe what's your take on it?
I think one thing I guess we haven't discussed is strategic capital. I think that could be very valuable to this group of founders here. I see a lot of up there was like medtech, deep tech, and hardware-focused AI companies. And I think venture is still pretty small asset class. There's a lot of capital out there. So I think as a founder, I think you want to go where the capital can help you the most, right? And if it's like a strategic company that can really help you with distribution, go to market, I think you should definitely think about going there. However, at the same time, with the strategic investors, people change, right? When we're talking about family offices, right? Families don't change. So you have to think about how do I maintain those relationships over time if people go in and out of the company, and maybe the company's strategy has changed as well. So those are some things to think about.
Matthew, you previously mentioned about AI is the thing to invest, but then there are so many AI companies nowadays, right? So besides, we all know that you should have your unique data, because if you only rely on the large LLM, then you might be wiped out with new feature launch. So can you tell us a bit more about your selecting criteria or general industry selecting criteria for AI companies?
Yeah, so our latest fund is going to focus on consumer AI, and I think if you think about, I guess, like the AI stack right now, you've got the foundational LLMs, the infrastructure, you've got tooling, and then you've got application layer. I think application layer is still pretty early, so we're invested in a company called Perplexity that is playing the I guess search space, right, competing with Google. So I think the criteria, I think, for us, I guess we were kind of like back in 2017-18, one of the first major AI plays is Musical.ly and TikTok. And so from a consumer's perspective, what they found with Musical.ly and TikTok's For You feed is a concept called hyper-personalization. So every product, we believe, in the future needs to be hyper-personalized. Like if you log in and you use it, if you have an experience that is not perfect, is not like personalized to you, you're not going to do it again. So that's one thing. The second thing that we think more of the product perspective is really important is the I guess value exchange for the consumer. So for example, I guess like for the last 20 years people have been searching on Google and you do a search, but you still have to spend 15-20 minutes like going through pages. You still doing the work. I think now consumers are demanding more value from an exchange, right? So Perplexity offers that, right? So for example, you just put in a search and it gives you an answer immediately, and then you can also dig in further. Those are a couple of things that from a product perspective that we spend a lot of time on, but it all comes down at the end of the day to the founders. So I think we spend a lot of time analyzing, thinking about where is the founder on their journey, like on their entrepreneurship journey. There's a lot of nuances. For example, like we invested in a company recently. We're expecting it to be potentially unicorn, but it's exiting for 2x. And the learning from that was the founder was burnt out. He spent the last 10 years. He was backed by Coastal Ventures, SoftBank, and then that company didn't do as well as he expected. And then, from his track record, he decided to back it, but he was burnt out. So, those are a lot of things that we spend time thinking about at pre-seed and seed.
Last question. So a lot of you asked about trust, right? As companies that are operating overseas at the beginning, now operating maybe potentially U.S. market or looking for U.S. investor or customers, like how to build trust?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's the market, right? So, I mean, ultimately, for you as international or global entrepreneurs, typically, more than most of the time I've seen it be successful has been people who have a deep network of local help and support. You need wayfinders, you need people who can point you in the right direction. They may not know exactly where to go, but they'll tell you how to figure out where you should be going and walk you through that knowledge and that experience, that process of going from point A to point B to point C. This is how I methodically figure out where the opportunity is. For you, many of you looking at the US market, this is foreign, this is new. And you need to rely on, thankfully, the government has been hugely supportive of your business development efforts here in the US, just at least creating some touch points. But day to day, creating or building, recruiting advisors, recruiting mentors, giving them, that's the equity that's worth it to help you continue to build that team, because one of our core themes that continues to emerge is that ultimately now in the US market, global teams matter. And global teams mean that you have to have a local team here if you plan on going to market here. Yes, you have a local team that supports the product and development of the company, wherever you're building it, right? You have a research and engineering department. You continue to build that product and iterate on that. But ultimately, those advisors, those guys, ultimately those have been pivotal for success. And that's what's led, helped us, continue to build some of a very unique portfolio, because we have founders who continue to give back to other founders. And that's exactly the secret that comes out. We are investors in Mercury. Mercury is a digital bank, but the founder of Mercury just announced his first inaugural venture fund. Well, Ahmad continues to give back. He's been as active an investor as he has been a builder. And for him, it's the same thing, just like all of us, as I'm saying, as an investor, we spend our time with the entrepreneurs because you give us energy. Just like we will hopefully trust you with capital. But at the end of the day, it's all of your unique idea and all of your unique perspectives that keeps us going. And ultimately, it's what makes us a very unique, narrow band of investors in a very, very competitive asset class. And that's our differentiator. And when you're figuring out, here in the US, talk to customers, get that feedback from the trade show, follow up on those trade show leads, actually ask them, walk them through the product, try to figure out what the product is, try to figure out their perspective on the technology. But for you as technical entrepreneurs, you have to figure out, how to sell. You have to figure out the marketing piece. You have to figure that out.
I was here like 2 years ago when we started. I reached out to alumni, University of Chicago alumni, where I got my MBA from. And then the alumni in the conversation, he's a founder. He does AI for like security camera for police station. In the conversation, I forgot that I was trying to ask him for his investor referral. I was just genuinely curious about his product. And then after the meeting, I introduced a whole bunch of people to them because I used to work for Meta. I help you Facebook connectivity. So we actually went to Africa Live, and a lot of security company went with us. So I connected with all those resources. A month after, he came back to me. He said, Anya, thank you so much for those clients. By the way, how can I help? Like, what was you when you reached out to me? What were you asking? I was like, oh, I forgot. I was trying to ask you to introduce me to your investor. So he connected me to Berlin Capital in half-hour conversation. Ben Lin, the founder, and he was a founding member of Google, and he said, I'm equal $1 million. That's how we got first VC check. So sometimes I think all of your, you have 15 founders here, probably more, and every one of you have investors. If you just share between each others, then you already got 15s, right? And that's what we see very different in the Bay Area. Like people are very supportive of each other and really open and to share what's going on. And I think teaming up between yourself is going to help a lot. Matthew, what's your take?
I think sometimes, like what I found with foreign, non-American founders is like a massive cultural difference for them to kind of adopt this very open and collaborative approach. I think I spend a lot of time in Europe as well, and you find folks are generally a little bit more conservative, right? And the capital there is conservative. Everything is conservative. And so a lot of the, I was just talking to a guy from France who's launched a fund, and he's like, I don't want to spend any time in France. Can't get any capital, can't do anything with it, right? Can't even fire employees, right? So I think there's a little bit of a hump to get over for some founders that's coming over to the US, and you have to embrace it, I feel like.
Before we go, I think a lot of founders here want to ask this question, like, are you guys investing? Are you guys raising? Are you investing? If so, what are you looking for? What's the criteria? What's the process? And also, what resources do you bring to your founders?
I mean, for now, we're more focused beyond our seed stage now. I think we're really focused on Series A and Series B. Deep tech founders who are working on process automation, on what we call vertical AI, meaning that rather than help consumers with everyday problems, you're helping businesses with everyday problems, solving them through automation, through data tools and infrastructure. Ultimately, where we think the market is we think that there is a window of time. Technology is becoming technology continues to be more and more vertical in its needs and its natures. Unfortunately, the smartphone cannot run a company for you. And so apps cannot run a company for you. And so we're continuing to bet on that. But also, we see a rise in demand for manufacturing. We see a rise in demand for warehousing and physical infrastructure and making that smarter. And so those are some of the areas that we're continuing to really focus on, as we're looking at the current set of entrepreneurs. And yes, we will go back to seed probably in the next 12 to 18 months. The goal is to hopefully create, specifically institutional capital that will help Taiwanese entrepreneurs continue to access and build into the U.S. market ecosystem. in the various industries, including defense, security, semiconductor, and AI.
Yeah, so I'm also fundraising, so I'm in the process of raising Fund 3 to $30 million vehicle, pre-seed and seed stage focused, check sizes 250K to $1 million, and it's going to be focused on consumer AI, so in the application layer. We think it's still fairly early in the cycle, but we want to get in early. We're usually first check writers, right? So. Fund 2, our second fund, is at the tail end of deployment right now, so there's probably 1 or 2 more checks to write out of this. So, but we spend most of our time focused on apps or agents that can help improve our everyday lives.
Last questions. For all the founders today you heard, can you name a few Angel Club, VC, or investor LP that you think they should be talking to or research on?
Should talk to nobody.
I mean,
semiconductor VCs or any of the defense VCs, other deep tech VC. Who else is out there in deep tech?
I mean, deep tech, I think, really. Matter Venture Partners continues to invest across the Taiwan ecosystem. They are very interested in seed stage, companies that have founders that are working on hardware standards for the future. That includes semiconductor. Other people to continue to talk to. I think Atri has their applied materials team. They will continue to be, especially for those that are chip and semiconductor focused. I think they will continue to be a bridge, for you, and spending time with them makes a lot of sense. And then beyond that, I think that there is an entire network of people that you can access through the Silicon Valley Hub, and I think hopefully the Startup Island Silicon Valley Hub will be another place that you'll find, will be a resource and a place for you to continue to connect across the ecosystem and hopefully find, your first U.S. investors.
Matthew, any names about?
I'm generally not too familiar with the hardware semiconductor space, but I think just to throw some names out, Lux Capital, I think I've worked with some of the partners there in the past, and LUX.